Named the terrorists behind the London attack which killed 7 people and injured nearly 50. Khurram Butt once appeared in a TV documentary about British jihadis. He was one of 3 men shot dead by police minutes after the attack began.
It's all going on right now. People running, I don't know out of where.
Tonight, dramatic new footage emerges of Saturday night's rampage. As more victims are identified, families condemn the callous cruelty that caused their deaths. And the political clash over cuts to armed police. Jeremy Corbyn backs calls for Theresa May to resign.
She was at the Home Office for all this time, presided over these cuts in police numbers.
I've been responsible for giving the police extra powers to deal with terrorism. Jeremy Corbyn has boasted that he has opposed those powers.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. Detectives have tonight named 2 of the 3 terrorists who carried out the London Bridge attack. Khurram Butt was born in Pakistan and lived in East London. He had previously been reported to authorities over fears that he had become radicalised. He was wearing an Arsenal football shirt when he was shot dead by police. Rashid Radouan was of Moroccan and Libyan descent and had also been living in Barking. The men and an accomplice killed 7 people by driving a hired van into pedestrians before jumping out and randomly stabbing passers-by. Here's our security editor, Rohit Kachru, on the terrorists behind Saturday's attack.
The only English white person who's a non-Muslim was part of our group, but because he's white and he's English, he can go.
There was no disguise, no attempt to hide.
But we are just saying we were praying, but they don't believe us. They say he was part of our group, Sergeant.
When he protested against the police, he even posted video of the exchange.
As a Muslim, we're in Muslim, we pray to a direction.
This was Khurram Butt on Saturday night, shortly after the attack, lying on the ground and wearing an Arsenal football shirt. He's been well known for several years, but to find out more about him, the authorities could have just checked the TV listings.
Anyone got a smartphone?
The group display the black flag of Islam, a symbol associated with Islamic armies for the past 1,200 years.
He starred in a documentary, its title, The Jihadi Next Door. This close friend of Butt joined him on many protests against American foreign policy.
There's many things that are going on around the world, and he did go to condemn that. He did. I remember him. I think it was at the American embassy. He was there, with me, and condemning the atrocities that America are doing. Even in the name of Britain, etc.
A second attacker named tonight was Rashid Radouan from Barking, a 36-year-old man of Libyan or Moroccan origin. There were, of course, 3 attackers on Saturday night. Scotland Yard has not named the 3rd man. The police are still guarding a tyre depot in Dagenham this evening. They arrived here first thing. It's not clear what here interests them, though a smashed door is evidence of their raid just before dawn.
Yeah, about 4 a.m. I heard the large bang, and the large initial bang. I looked outside the window and I see about a dozen armed police officers jumping out of an unmarked van.
Elsewhere in East London, there were more people detained. This was Newham today. New suspects taken away. The investigation is being described as fast-moving. A man with a camera phone caught up in the panic of Saturday night.
Of London. Police are shooting. I'm trying to keep myself safe.
Police opening fire on the terrorists.
You see the people running?
Moments later, the escape of the people caught up in it all.
It's all going on right now. People running, I don't know out of where, because I was on the scene, like where the attack was happening, and I'm just like in the corner. Yeah, here's a policeman coming towards me.
Disappear now!
Yeah.
Gone!
All right. They want me out of the scene, so I'm going out.
There is a unique atmosphere within Britain's police and intelligence community tonight. Rarely in recent years have so many plots been foiled, but never in that time have so many got through.
OK, so Rohit, we've got 2 out of the 3 names now. What have you learnt about these terrorists in the last hour?
Well, in the last few moments, we've learned that Khurram Butt had a terrorism investigation launched into his activities in 2015. That was eventually downgraded, but only after subsequent phone calls were made by concerned people to the anti-terrorism hotline. And as for Rashid Radayoun, he was living in Ireland, we've learned, but he was not under surveillance during that short period he was living over there from the Irish authorities. We're also learning today that over the last 9 weeks, there have been 8 attempted terror plots. The atmosphere described by the leader of the counter-terrorism police as being completely different to anything that we have seen before. OK,
Rohit Khatri, thank you. A Canadian woman who died in her fiancé's arms was the first of Saturday's victims to be named today. 30-year-old Christine Archibald was hit by the terrorist van on London Bridge. Her family said Chrissy had room in her heart for everyone and wouldn't have understood the hate that killed her. Tonight, 36 patients are still being treated in hospital. 18 of them remain in critical care tonight. Geraint Vincent reports on the victims.
Christine Archibald was 30 years old. She was soon to be married. On Saturday night in London Bridge, she died in her fiancé's arms. Back home in Canada this morning, a family friend spoke on behalf of Chrissy's parents.
She had room in her heart for everyone and believed strongly that every person was to be valued and respected. She lived this belief working in a shelter for the homeless until she moved to Europe to be with her fiancé. She would have had no understanding of the callous cruelty that caused her death.
The family of 32-year-old James McMullen, who lived in East London, have said that he is among the dead. His sister described him as an inspiration. And while some have been given the worst news, others are still trying to find out what's happened to those they hold dear. Jeremy and Damien know that their friend Sebastian was out at a bar in Borough Market on Saturday, but nothing else.
I mean, we've been to every hospital. We've been in contact with French embassy, with the police. I mean, we are about 20 friends looking for him, you know.
I know that if I was here, if I was in Sebastian's position, he would do at least the same that we're doing. He wouldn't give up.
Dozens of people have spent the last 36 hours in and out of surgery. Daniel O'Neill has a knife wound 7 inches long in his side, but he's going to be okay.
Well, he just said, I feel so bad, Mum. And I said, why do you feel so bad? And he said, well, I'm alive and others have died, which kind of blew me away a little bit, but wasn't a complete surprise because I've heard other victims of attacks like this say the same.
This attack took place in the heart of a global city. The pain it has caused is reaching around the world. And while there are still people missing, there is agony as well as grief. Geraint Vincent, ITV News.
And in the last hour, a vigil has been held in tribute to all the victims. It was led by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, close to City Hall. Ben Chapman is there now. So, Ben, defiance and tributes, really pretty much an equal measure.
That's right. Sorrow, anger,
resolve, determination. Those were the words that Sadiq Khan used to sum up the mood at this vigil tonight. There were thousands of people here. We watched them stream along the riverside, many of them on their way home from work, as they came here to stop, to stand and to be silent for a minute, to pay tribute to the victims, but also to display the same kind of solidarity that we witnessed in Manchester just 2 short weeks ago. Many of them were carrying flowers. Some of them were wearing T-shirts bearing the hashtag I am a Muslim. And it was about his faith that Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, spoke when he addressed the terrorists, telling the crowd, "They do not commit these disgusting acts in my name." He said London stands in defiance against a cowardly attack, and he says this city will never be divided by terrorism.
Ben Chapman at City Hall, thank you. Theresa May was forced to defend her record over police funding cuts today. She insisted the government has given extra money for more armed police and protected counter-terror budgets. But the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, said there was deep anger over the fall in numbers and supported calls for Mrs May to resign. Our political correspondent Libby Vina now on the row over police cuts.
Who could doubt their bravery and the speed with which they reacted to the London Bridge attack? But have police cuts taken a toll and made us less safe than we might have been? The Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn claims they have, telling ITV News he backed calls for Theresa May to resign.
There's been calls made by a lot of very responsible people on this who are very worried that she was at the Home Office for all this time, presided over these cuts in police numbers, and now is saying that we have a problem. Yes, we do have a problem. We shouldn't have cut the police numbers.
So to be clear, you would like to see her resign over this?
We've got an election on Thursday, and that's perhaps the best opportunity to deal with it.
In 2010, there were nearly 6,800 firearms officers in England and Wales. By 2016, that number had dropped to less than 5,700, meaning there were 1,100 fewer armed officers on our streets. Theresa May insisted today that since 2015, police budgets had been protected. But questioned as to whether cuts made earlier should be reversed, she pointedly refused to say, instead going on the offensive, attacking Jeremy Corbyn's record on security matters, saying he wasn't fit to be Prime Minister.
I've been responsible for giving the police extra powers to deal with terrorism. Jeremy Corbyn has boasted that he has opposed those powers and opposed the powers for anti-terror actions throughout his time in Parliament. And I also support absolutely shoot to kill. And I think what we saw on our streets on Saturday was how important that was.
But what about the police themselves? Looking forward, it seems they believe more money and more people are needed.
In 9 weeks, 3 attacks, 5 foiled plots. That is a very high tempo of work, it's very high intensity, it's very demanding for us. And we do need to work with the government to see what policing needs, what the agencies need.
Extra security for pedestrians is already in place on Westminster Bridge, and security now looks set to dominate the remaining days of the election campaign. Libby Vina, ITV News, Westminster.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News, the family of a victim of the Manchester attack joins tributes to those killed in London. That story and more after the break. Join me then. Hello again, welcome back. A teenager killed in the Manchester bombing was described today as a girl with a warm, gentle nature and a heart full of love. 14-year-old Ailey MacLeod was buried today on the remote Outer Hebrides where she lived. Our Scotland correspondent Peter Smith reports.
Ailey's father led the coffin, a final duty for his daughter. The piper played an old Gaelic folk tune about a young fair-haired lady from this island, a fitting send-off for Ailey MacLeod. The 14-year-old was killed at the Ariana Grande concert. She had travelled to Manchester with her friend Laura McIntyre, who is still in hospital. At the funeral today, more than 1,000 people attended, almost the entire population of the island. They listened to Ailey's great-uncle speak.
Ailey was looking forward to a great future. Performing well at school, she was thinking about her career, and with her many friends, it was all becoming a new, more adult adventure. Tragically, Ailey's death has cut short her journey.
Yesterday, Ailey's body was flown back to the beach runway on Barra. This is 400 miles from Manchester and a world away from the battlefields of the Middle East. Today at the funeral, a recording of Ailey on the bagpipes was played. The trail of pain created by so-called Islamic State has now reached one of the farthest corners of the UK. In a statement, Ailey's family said she loved life and made the most of her 14 years. Ailey's infectious personality touched everyone she met, and it has been a privilege and an honour to have her as our daughter. Ailey's body was driven to a spot here where she grew up, and where she is now laid to rest. Peter Smith, ITV News, Barra.
Another parent grieving the loss of a loved one in Manchester spared a thought today for the families of the London victims. Charlotte Campbell, whose 15-year-old daughter Olivia died, laid flowers at the scene and said the London attack had brought the horror flooding back. Richard Pallow reports on London and Manchester mourning together.
Of the ever-growing tributes at the scene, few will be as poignant, placed by a mother and stepfather who know the pain that many will now be going through. Olivia Campbell was one of the 22 victims of the Manchester attack. Yet just a fortnight to the day after she was murdered, those closest to her felt compelled to show their support here in London.
What were your feelings, your innermost feelings, I guess, when you went to the scene of another terrorist attack?
I was sad and I was sickened that it's happened again. It was like reliving 2 weeks ago all over again. And I just felt so sorry for people down here, and I just prayed that some of them would have at least the same strength, if not more strength than I've got, to carry on and show people we're not going to be beaten.
Among the tens of thousands at last night's tribute concert, she was singled out by Ariana Grande, the artist her daughter had gone to see.
I had the pleasure of meeting Olivia's mommy a few days ago, and she said that I should stop crying because Olivia wouldn't have wanted me to cry. And then she told me that Olivia would have wanted to hear the hits.
In a way, it was heartbreaking because Olivia wasn't here to hear it, but it was one of the proudest moments in my life, knowing that my little girl's getting where she wants to be. She's not here, but she's still there, and she's not going anywhere.
As they reflected today on what others have lost, Charlotte and Paul must now soon prepare for another ordeal, burying their precious 15-year-old. The message on their bouquet is simple: stand strong, stand together. Richard Pallow, ITV News.
And one other story tonight. Peter Sallis has died at the age of 96. The actor became a household name for his role as Norman Clegg in the long-running British sitcom Last of the Summer Wine.
Very cheeky.
He was also famous for being the unmistakable voice of Wallace in Wallace and Gromit. Peter Sallis died peacefully on Friday with his family at his side. And finally, of all the memorable moments of last night's One Love concert in Manchester, there was one which seemed to capture the spirit of the city and the event itself. It was when police officer Paul Taylor was filmed dancing hand in hand with youngsters. On an unexpected internet star, he told Rachel Younger about the experience.
On a night full of heartwarming moments, this was the one that captured our hearts.
I'll be alive.
As Justin Bieber played, there was something so simple, so spontaneous about a policeman and two little girls dancing along that PC Taylor woke up to find he'd become an internet sensation.
Basically, I was inside watching the concert. I've been approached by a couple of little girls asking if they could have the photograph taken. More than happy to oblige. They've then said, can we dance? And you can't say no, definitely not. So I've taken part in what people are calling dad dancing, but I wouldn't even describe it as being as good as that.
And there's a serious side to this too, isn't it? Because For many youngsters who were at the original concert, this was about getting over their fear.
Yeah, most definitely. I was approached by a few of the girls who had been to the original concert, and I could see that they were quite tearful. I was just trying to reassure them, tell them that we were there to help them, you know, to make them feel safe.
And after 2 decades of keeping us all safe as an officer, all this is a bit of a shock. But if that call from Justin Bieber does come...
Just give me a ring, I'm more than happy to oblige.
Have you got any other moves?
I'm not going to show you them just yet, I'll work on them.
You knew what was coming?
I did know what was coming. Yeah, I'll let you know.
That irrepressible spirit and this beautiful moment, summing up Manchester to perfection. Rachel Younger, ITV News.
And thank goodness for dad dancing. That's all for now, but on ITV at 8 o'clock, Julie Etchingham interviews Nicola Sturgeon. For tonight, the leader interviews Raggy Omar's here at 10. But from me and all the team, have a good evening. Bye-bye.